The Acura TLX is a capable sedan. This is the more powerful Type S, which is powered by a 3-liter turbocharged V6. But I'll touch on that one as we get underneath the hood. There are a few things that I would like to see improved, but otherwise it's a great car all around. And in this video, you're going to learn everything you need to know about this ride. Pricing for the TLX in Canada starts at around $58,700 versus $46,600 down in the US. There is a little bit of a price discrepancy there outside of just the general exchange rate. And that's that the US has an entry-level trim known as the Technology pack or the Technology trim, which is front-wheel drive, and it's got the 2-liter engine and not quite as much technology as the a-spec or the Type S. This one is in the platinum white pearl paint, and inside is the red leather ultra suede interior. And the combination here of the white with the black outside with the black and the red interior actually looks pretty sharp, because normally red, it's a loud color. It's not one I would normally go for, but the way that Acura's done this, I think it looks pretty sharp. You're going to find the TLX in the Technology trim with front-wheel drive in the US, but outside of that, it's all-wheel drive. And then up in Canada, strictly all-wheel drive, regardless of the trim level that you're looking at. I'm personally a bigger fan of all-wheel drive, especially in the wintertime. Like if you live somewhere with snowy, slippery conditions, like northern states or in Canada like me, you know, like front-wheel drive, you can get by in the wintertime, but all-wheel drive, it just handles it like a boss instead. So I normally would recommend all-wheel drive anyways. Looking at the wheel style inside of this one, it's got like a nice matte gray finish. And with that split style, I love it. So I'm a bigger fan of darker wheels. These ones aren't blacked out, but still the color scheme just works. With the Type S, there's also Brembo brakes and the caliper here painted red. That highlight works so well. The front end style of the TLX is kind of neat. When you go through the grille, it's got this like spider web design to it. It just looks great, like the Type S badge there. And then there are black highlights all the way throughout. And then there are different packages and options where you can get some of the different emblems and things like that, black, right from the factory. So if you wanted something a little bit more unique, that is available. You're going to find LED headlamps inside of the TLX. Technology-wise, inside of the TLX, there's the option for the forward park sensing system, along with a front-facing camera. So there is a surround monitor or 360 cam available inside of this ride. These things aren't standard across the board though, so you're not going to find it in the entry-level Technology trim, but some features are available in the a-spec. But if you want every feature, that's where you're looking at the Type S instead. Underneath the hood of the TLX, there are 2 different engine choices that are available. So the entry level is a 2-liter 4-cylinder. Just has a decent amount of power, but then you look at the 3-liter turbocharged V6 instead. And this one pushes out an impressive 355 horsepower and 354 pound-feet of torque. So let's get back up to highway speed here. Go in 3, 2, and launch control. Paddle shifters. 100. Oh, it's a blast. That engine sounds mean. No complaints. No complaints on the sound there. The performance was fantastic. I love that sport mode. It just opens things up so nicely and it sounds so good. So good at the same time. Like the hard part when you're doing tests like this, when the car has power, is actually stopping at 100 kilometers an hour, so 60 miles per hour. But that in my mind, I'd say that was pretty solid performance there. So if you want the best possible performance inside of your TLX, you're absolutely going to want to go for the Type S. But the 2-liter, the power and the fuel economy are fantastic. You get about 30% more power though in comparison when you look at the 3-liter. So he said, if power's your thing, you want to go for the Type S. Otherwise, the Tech Pack or just looking at the a-spec are pretty good choices too. You can save yourself a little bit of cash. But underneath the hood here, it's nice and simple. There's a little engine cover. You can easily change your oil yourself if you want to. And you can easily top up your wiper fluid along the top left-hand side. Looking at the warranty inside of the Acura world, slightly different from Canada to the States. So basic in Canada and the States, 4 years. Powertrain in Canada is 5 years, and it's a 6-year coverage down in the US. And that's for varying times as well. But if you really want that added peace of mind, you can increase your warranty at time of purchase, but regardless of whether you do or not, just take care of your cars. Hondas, Acuras are known for getting 2, 3, 4, 500,000 kilometers or 3, 4, 500,000 miles plus, but it does base itself on you actually taking care of your ride. So regular scheduled maintenance, regular oil changes, these cars absolutely can last if you take care of them. And looking at the size of the car, so it is a sedan, which means that it's lower profile. I think it's great because with it being a lower profile vehicle, that means that the likelihood of a rollover is smaller. On top of that, you get better handling and you're also going to get better fuel economy compared to a crossover or an SUV. Getting inside the ride, straightforward. First row. Oh, nice, easy enough. Second, it's going to be a little tight. A little tight. But it's possible. And one nice thing is that there are assist handles across all 4 doors if you need them. The TLX has a little walk-away lock feature. So as long as you've got the fob on you, walk away, it'll lock the doors. There's also some neat key fob tricks that you can do. So if you want to know how to actually use the fob inside of the TLX, you'll find a walkthrough down in the description. But let's see there. So power folding side view mirrors are there with turn signals. And then if you've got the full 360 camera, you'll also have a side mounted cam. Hopping inside of the ride. Nice, we'll get to that red interior in a second, but the highlights here are going to be dependent on the trim level that you're in. This one has driver seat memory. The buttons here are going to be the same though, so you can adjust your side view mirrors, power fold them, adjust your windows. There's some door storage, and then your trunk release with a little speaker here because this one is the upgraded speaker system with some sport pedals. And this one has the interior protection pack, and you can see there, this one definitely needs it. It's way easier to clean this thing off compared to what's going on up there with the carpet. It's so much more difficult to clean off carpeted mats. That's why these things are so useful. Along the side here, you can adjust your seat a few different ways. So 16-way adjustable in the Type S, 12-way adjustable otherwise. But I like that. Red highlights there with a nice suede insert. Sharp. All right, here we go. Taking a peek at the steering wheel as well as the cluster screen inside of the Acura TLX. This is obviously the fully digital version. I haven't been in one of the ones with the last generation analog. If that's available, you'll find it down in the description. And then if you want to walk through on the infotainment system, you'll find that in the description as well. But taking a peek, there are so many different things. First thing I'll point out is that the steering wheel across the lineup is manual telescoping. So by your left knee, so release there, in, out, up and down to find that perfect position. Once you find it, click it in order to lock it back into place. The actual steering wheel style is going to be somewhat similar across the lineup. So this is the Type S, which is why I've got that Type S badge, flat bottom steering wheel. The A-spec will be flat bottom, and then the Tech will just be a regular rounded wheel instead. But very similar functionality. So let's go ahead and dive into all the different stocks and buttons. Starting off with the stick along the left-hand side. So you've got the flexibility of adjusting your lights. So one thing that I'm going to say is that the screen itself gives you the flexibility of putting the vehicle into an auto headlamp mode in your lights for your vehicle. I definitely would recommend keeping yourself in the auto high beam setup here. And the big reason why is because when you're in the auto light mode, if the vehicle recognizes high beams are needed, it turns them on automatically. If somebody's oncoming, it turns them off. From there, if you wanted to permanently lock your high beams out, you just have to go into the bottom headlamp mode instead. You could push away to permanently turn them on, pull towards you to turn them off. But in the auto mode, with the auto high beam turned on, it does it automatically. You can still flash your high beams out if you'd like to though. From here, right stick is going to be for your wipers. So you've got a few different options available. If you go one level down, that then gives you the flexibility of using the little rocker in the middle here in order to be able to say how fast or slow that rain's hitting the windshield, or you can go into some of those crazy fast modes instead. You can also pull towards you in order to get that front wiper fluid going. And there's a button on the tip of the right stick, and pushing that is a hot button press to get to your camera, with a few different views that are available too. Neat. From here, the car has paddle shifters. So your minus along the left-hand side with your plus along the right-hand side. So if you wanted to drop gears in order to be able to shoot up your RPMs to give you some launch speed, you've got that flexibility. If you needed to rely on engine braking because your brakes have died, you've got that flexibility as well. But if you've never used paddle shifters before, they're really straightforward to use. It works the same way as a column shifter or a hand shifter this way, not a manual transmission, but an auto. But if you want a walkthrough on how these are actually used, check down in the description of this video for a walkthrough on that instead. The steering wheel inside of the ride is going to be heated. If yours is heated, button along the top of the pad there, so top right side of the left pad. You could turn the audio on or off by pushing this button. There's a volume rocker here. There's a volume rocker down the center as well, and the flexibility of toggling your audio off this way. So you can do that a few different ways. From there, you've got a little trackpad, and that's going to let you figure out what's going on inside of the left part of the cluster, but I'll show you that one as we zoom in. There's a voice command prompt where you can do things like change songs, radio stations, you can navigate using your voice, and so many other things. If your phone was connected, so Android or iPhone, you could do a long button push and hold there as well in order to be able to launch into either your Google or your Siri Assistant, depending on which phone is connected. Straightforward. And then there's a menu button, and that's going to bring you the flexibility of adjusting which source you're currently listening to. So you can jump in between your sources, but then as you jump deeper into that level, you can also look at your individual favorited stations for each of your available sources too. But we'll dive into that one as we get inside of the cluster. Along the right-hand side, series of other options. So you've got your adaptive cruise control system. So you can toggle it on this way. Once the system's turned on, you then push down in order to set your speed. From there, you can increase or decrease 1 kilometer, 1 mile per hour at a time by pushing up or down, or pushing and holding up or down is going to increase you to the nearest 5 or 0 kilometers or miles per hour. So let's say if you initially set it at 37, push and hold up, it'll bring you to 40, 45, 50, etc. Push and hold down will do the opposite. You can hit the brake to cancel your speed. You can hit the cancel button to cancel your speed. Then you push up to resume your previously set speed. The TLX also has the option for either traditional or adaptive cruise control. So adaptive cruise control is going to be the default when you turn the cruise control system on. But there's this button, which is your gap adjustment. So in adaptive cruise control, there are 4 unique levels. So it's how close or far are you away from the vehicle that's in front of you. So let's say if you set it at 60, car in front of you slows down, yours is automatically going to brake. If they change lanes, you change lanes, they pick up speed, it's going to pick you back up to your previously set speed, but that's based off of your distance indicator. So your gap adjustment here. So I normally recommend level 1 on just residential streets. You might want to be on level 2 or 3, highways or interstates, depending on your comfort level. For sure, if it's slippery, snowy conditions, level 4 there, but you've got options. But then if you take that same gap adjustment button, if you push and hold it for a second, that's going to put you into a traditional cruise control instead. So that's your old school cruise. So let's say if you set it at 60, car in front of you slows down, yours will not brake. So that's the difference between the adaptive versus the traditional. There's also this little feller, and that's the lane following system. So the car is not hands-free driving. It doesn't have that flexibility, but with this system enabled, if the vehicle recognizes the lane markings, it's going to go green here. And then what's going to happen here is if you lose focus for a second, you take your hands off the steering wheel, it's going to keep you perfectly balanced in your lane. Like I said, not full self-driving, because after about 10 seconds, you get a little message inside of the cluster screen here telling you that steering's required. But it's neat to know that if you lose focus for a second, you're rubbernecking like an idiot, the vehicle will at least keep you perfectly balanced with those lane markings recognized. Straightforward. Then down by your left knee, there are a few different switches. So you can use this one in order to adjust the brightness of the cluster screen. This is a hot button press in order to get into your different safety systems. You can also turn on your defroster, the park sensing system, so that beeping that you get as you back up. You can toggle traction control on or off this way, and then there's your electronic parking brake. So with the parking brake, you're going to push in to turn it on. You're going to hit the brake and then pull out in order to be able to turn it off. Taking a peek at the cluster screen. So you can see here, you've got your tachometer off to the left, speedometer off to the right, your digital speed there, along with whether your cruise control system's turned on, that lane keeping system, etc. Along the very bottom, you can see what gear you're in. So whether that's park, reverse, neutral, drive, etc. So these things are going crazy just because I'm parked in front of a snowbank there, but you can see all of your different sensors. If you had them, yay or nay. Along the very bottom, you can see your current engine temperature along with your current odometer. Along the bottom right-hand side is going to be your current fuel gauge done two different ways. So it's your gauge counter there versus your kilometers or miles till empty instead. And then another neat thing to point out, as you hit the brake, you can see that go on. As you hit your blinkers, that shows up, your high beams, etc. It's just one neat little touch that Acura does inside of their cars. And then you've got a few different buttons here to navigate through those individual sections of the cluster screen. So we'll start off with the left. So if you hit the menu button there, that's going to let you choose all of your available sources. So if you wanted to listen to FM radio, you can dive in, and then you can select between all of your available favorites. You can swipe across in order to go to stations that you've listened to recently, and that's the same for AM, FM, etc. So if we go down to, actually, let's even do SiriusXM. Same idea, you go to your recents and you can see what recent stations you've listened to or your favorited stations. But moving back, you've got all of your different sources there. You can also customize which sources are there. So if you're never going to use Alexa, never going to use Android Auto, USB audio, etc., or any of these other options, you can select or deselect any ones that you'd like to. Once you've selected or deselected, if you go back, you'll now see that you can switch between any of these other options instead. So the pad here is going to be for adjusting out the sources that you're in. Kind of neat. Along the right-hand side, you're going to be using this pad in order to adjust out that. So if we slide up and down, you've got your trip counter, so trip A versus trip B. You've got different options there. Same idea inside of the infotainment system. It gives you a few different options. The big one here is that if we go into our vehicle settings, into meter setup, you've then got your trip A versus trip B reset timing. So when do you want your trip A or B counters to reset? Do you want to manually reset it? Do you want it when your vehicle's turned off or every time you refuel? So if you're using your vehicle for business and you want to track your mileage easy, you've got that flexibility. But inside of the cluster screen here, you could switch between your A versus B counter by moving that dial left or right. If you wanted to reset, you just push and hold the button in the middle there in order to bring you back to 0 instead. Bringing you down brings you to this navigation screen. So if you had an active route going here, so let's shoot across and find some recent addresses. Let's go to Tim Hortons. Nice and Canadian of me. There we go. So you can see there, turn-by-turn directions. So with an active route going, it's turn-by-turn directions. With nothing there, it's just a compass view instead. Jumping down a level is your oil life counter through the infotainment. You can recenter that out or bring it back to 0 again, or I guess 100% if you change it out yourself. As you go to drive, you'll be able to see which wheel gets which amount of power. You've got your G meter, driver attention level. So as you start to veer over too many times into another lane without signaling, eventually it's going to tell you that you should probably take a break. You can see if there are people in the vehicle, whether or not their seatbelts are plugged in. There's just a basic calming view screen instead. There's all of your safety information. So if you wanted to disable all of these options, like your road departure mitigation, your blind spot system, things like that, you'd have the flexibility of toggling these systems on or off. I just recommend keeping them turned on. And back into our gauge settings. So you've got two different options there. You can adjust out your speed units here. So you could do it through the infotainment or right through the screen here instead if you'd like to. And then you've also got the flexibility of adjusting out the look. So there's a gauge layout here, so either advanced or crafted. So the meter view here is kind of neat. It's going to come down to a matter of preference. I think that the advanced one is a little bit more simplistic versus this is going to be like your traditional old school. But let's look at the space here. So I'm 6 feet tall, and with the driver's seat set up the way that I would traditionally drive, up overhead, a little tight, 1.5 inches-ish of headspace. Oh. That's as far down as it goes. Okay, so with the seat as far down as it's going to go, you're about 1 inch, 1.5 inches of headspace. So if you're like 6'2", maybe 6'3", you'll be okay here with your seat reclined back. But outside of that, you'll have to look at another Acura instead. This one might be a little bit too small for you. The seat is really comfortable. It's nice. And I like the red interior. Like typically red wouldn't be my thing, but the red interior with all of the black highlights like the headliner, etc., I think it works. Taking a peek at the infotainment system inside of the Acura TLX. This 12.3-inch screen is the only version that you're going to find. And one interesting thing about the screen is that it's not actually a touch screen. So it's just a display. In order to actually be able to move around the infotainment system, you're going to be using the trackpad just along the very bottom here. So you'll be able to move around into the various pages. You can swipe across in order to get to additional pages that way. There's a basic back button, get to your home screen. You could adjust the cards along the right-hand side, and then you can adjust that little right screen. So this main pad is going to adjust the main part of the screen along the outside there. And then this part here along the far right is controlled using the switch this way instead. So it's straightforward once you get the hang of it. It's a little bit weird actually navigating through the system this way. It would be nice if it was touchscreen. I get it. It's kind of weird and out of the way there, but just having to go through this in order to adjust it, I'm not too crazy about it. I think it should be multi-function where it's this trackpad or a physical touch, but there's no physical touch. So you're gonna see me moving around the screen, and I'm just using the trackpad along the very middle there in order to do it. So starting off on the navigation side of things. So the vehicle does have factory navigation, straightforward. You could change up your heading using the option along the top left-hand side there. The one just under that, you could show buildings, landmarks, traffics, point of interest icon, things like that. There's the option of going plus or minus to zoom in or out, or you can go to menu in order to change a number of things out. When you're on one of these pages as well, there's the option along the outside of the trackpad. So you can go up or down this way instead, and then that is going to shift you up or down pages. So if there are sub pages that are available, you can move up or down this way if you want to. So let's start off on the map view side of things. There's 2D versus 3D view, etc. So there are different views that are available. You can change out the color scheme to other options. So you can permanently lock it out to either a day or nighttime mode. In the auto mode though, the vehicle is going to figure out whether or not it's the dark or the bright map instead. So this is the way that the daytime map looks. Nighttime would just be a dark view instead. There are different options there. With your map view, you can change up whether or not those buildings or landmarks showing up, point of interest icons, etc., or traffic views. So you'll see a few things shown, a few different spaces. Do you want the fastest time or the shortest distance available when it's calculating your available routes? You could say whether or not you want different things on the route. Do you want to avoid toll roads, ferries, unpaved roads, and things like that? So you can select or deselect any of these options, use HOV lanes, etc. And if we hop back and down, once that goes away, there we go. You can adjust your voice guidance volume. So as you're coming to upcoming turns, it can let you know. You can set that unique option. For your time of arrival, do you want the arrival time versus remaining when you've got an active route going? You can clear all of your history if there are map updates available, and then you can see some basic about information. If we hop back into navigation for a second, along the very bottom, you can find or see nearby point of interest icons instead. So if we click on find for a second, search for addresses, you can search if you want to by either going keyboard, so along the top side there, or you can use the pad here in order to be able to search for addresses instead. So if you know where you want to go,
plus sign.
That's not right, that would be a T that I'm after. So it takes a little bit of getting used to doing this.
T.
There we go.
I. M.
There we go, and you can kind of start going that way, and then you can move up and down between the different options here. So again, it takes a little bit of getting used to the trackpad. You do also have the flexibility of using the voice command prompt if you wanted to be able to navigate to a route that way instead. That's probably one of the easier ways to do it, but you can select through all of the available options here, and then just click on one and hit go, and it's going to give you the turn-by-turn directions that you need. Now, you could also find an additional address here, and one of the big benefits there is that if you wanted to go to multiple stops, you've got the flexibility to do it. Again, you can see what's nearby, take a detour, etc., or click on the part along the very bottom to see your total route overview. Along the top right side, you can move in order to go to different map preferences and things like that instead. So back to your navigation menu. If you go back to find again, you could either browse or see all of your recent addresses too. So you could see all of the different addresses that you've gone to. Straightforward. Download places, you can also set our home address or additional favorites. One of the benefits there is that if you have a home address set up, you could hit the voice command prompt and you'd be able to say navigate home, and it would navigate to whatever the home address is that you've got saved there instead. But that's using factory navigation, straightforward. And next up is going to be different radio options or audio options. So you've got AM, FM, SiriusXM that are available. So if we shoot across, there's USB music, Alexa, and things like that. So starting off with SiriusXM, there we go. Once it loads up, you can see all of your favorited stations along the very bottom. In order to be able to save a station this way, all you're going to do is tune to whatever station that you'd like to. Once you do, you could push in order to be able to add in the station as well. Down along the bottom, you can also do a bigger push and hold. So it's a long push and hold in that button to remove a favorite, replace it as well. So it's straightforward to do. So in order to just be able to save presets, you just go add favorite. But in order to overwrite, just do a long button push and hold there, which is going to give you the option of removing favorites, replacing, etc. With SiriusXM, you've got some additional options too. So if you go view more, you can scan, you can pause the actual song itself as it goes. Straightforward. Menu along the top right side is going to give you advanced sound settings, channel schedules, and then your SiriusXM settings. So you've got your tune options, scanning, notifications, all your basics. And if we go into, actually let's go back for a second and jump into FM radio. So it's going to give you some additional options too. So you've got all of your available station lists. So if you're new to an area, you can refresh to see what stations are available, or you can swipe up or down in order to go to different pages as well. And then in order to select a station, all you're going to do is highlight and click. It's probably the more difficult way to do it. You can see along the bottom, you've also got all of your available stations that way too. So all of your available presets. If you wanted to, same idea, big push and hold in order to either remove the favorite or replace it, or you can add it to the home page instead. So you can see there, we've got different stations available too. Swiping across in order to get to your different preset pages. So again, in order to save in a station, all you're going to do is tune to whatever station that you want to. It's kind of neat, you can kind of tune this way instead. Or use the voice command prompt. 94.9 FM.
Playing 94.9 FM.
So if you already know the stations that you like to listen to, I'd recommend just changing it using your voice first, and then just going through and then replacing and setting up all of your favorites that way. Straightforward to do. You could move stations this way. You can just do a general scan, so it'll just keep on playing until you hit stop. So you've got options there. And then if we go other way for AM radio, that's going to give you the same options. So you've got different stations. So all of your presets are going to be different based off of the source that you're in. But hopping back home now, let's go back. So that's AM, FM, Bluetooth audio. Once you have a phone connected, or if you have an MP3 player with Bluetooth support, that would show up. So next up, let's actually go ahead and connect a phone. We're going to start off on the iPhone side of things. So we're just going to connect new device. On your phone, you're going for Bluetooth, and you're going to be looking for hands-free link. There we go. You can see that that's shown up. You're just going to connect through. There we go. Pin numbers there match up, so let's go ahead and pair there. Do you want to allow contacts and favorites to sync up? This is not my car, so I'm going to say no to that one. Obviously, if it was yours, you could say yes, and you can stop here. So the phone's connected over Bluetooth. So you could make phone calls, or you'd be able to stream audio that way if you'd like to. But you've also got Apple CarPlay. And one nice thing is that it's wireless. It is backwards compatible. So if you wanted to use a USB cable, you absolutely could. It's going to be a USB Type A, and then you're plugging it in just under the armrest there. But you want to make sure that it's a data transfer cable. But if you're running into problems and CarPlay's not even showing up here, check down in the description of this video. I've put together some common CarPlay fixes that you can try that are applicable to every manufacturer. But from here, we're good. So let's just go ahead and change to CarPlay. There we go. And then on the device, it's saying, do you want to use CarPlay with hands-free link? So let's go ahead and use CarPlay. Should take a second there, and look at that. 3, 2, 1, we're fully connected. So you can see there, we've got our little split screen still, so you can use factory navigation or other options along the right side if you'd like to, with CarPlay along the left. So looking at CarPlay, you've got your current time, connection, and battery level, which map was open last, which audio application was open last, and then miscellaneous application along the left side there. And moving down to the bottom button there is going to give you access to this little tray view instead. And same idea, swiping across, you've got support for Apple Maps, Google Maps, and Waze. Waze is my go-to application on Apple CarPlay, but that one's going to come down to a matter of personal preference. The big reason why I love Waze is that as you, this is really tricky using this little touchpad. Here we go. So as we move around up and down using This you can see as people mark things on the map. So if there are speed traps and things like that, you can see that people have marked off that there are police there. So you could mark things off yourself if you want to, but I just think that that is a very, very useful feature inside of Waze. Boom. There we go. And you can mark things off yourself too. So if you notice that there are traffic, if there's a speed trap, there's a crash, hazards on roadways and things like that, you can give people a heads up. Apple CarPlay doesn't have video playback support, so it's strictly going to be audio. You can use Hoopla, which is a library app, Live Ones, a radio app, and there are so many options. If you wanted to just use podcasts and things like that, that's available through the screen here too. And once you're connected to CarPlay, on the steering wheel, you've got a button along the left-hand side here, so your voice command prompt. With CarPlay connected, if you do a short button push, that's going to bring up your assistant for the vehicle. But if you take that same button, if you do a long button push and hold instead, that is going to bring up your Siri assistant. So short button push is for the factory assistant for the screen. Long button push and hold is going to be for your Siri assistant instead. Then back to this other screen, if we shoot across into settings, you'd have the flexibility of adjusting out CarPlay a little bit here. So if you wanted to put yourself into a driving focus mode instead, you could change out the wallpaper. So if there's a color scheme that works better and speaks to you, you'd have the flexibility of changing it out to any of these other color schemes instead. So watch this. Yeah, look at that. Something different. Kind of nice. Now, you've also got the flexibility of adjusting out the icons here. So on your phone, you're going to go into your settings and then general and then CarPlay, find your vehicle, and then that's going to give you other options here. So you want to go into customize. When you hit customize, that's going to give you this option. So you can see all the hamburger icons. So you can just drag them and then move them into whatever position that you'd like to. So if there are certain apps you want to use, you can adjust it. Anything with a minus arrow next to it, so a minus icon, you're just going to press that in order to remove that feature from the vehicle. So we've removed a few things. So if we swipe across, other way, there we go. You can see there. So those apps have been deleted, but it saves it along the bottom of the phone. So you could add them back in if you want to. If you've played around with the layout here too much and you don't like what you've done, along the top right side of your phone, there's a reset option. So you're going to go reset, reset, and that's just going to bring you back to that factory default layout screen there instead. So that basic icon view. If you hit the home icon along the trackpad, that's going to bring you back to the home screen. You can hop back into your phone there if you'd like to, hop back into just the general CarPlay screen, back to CarPlay instead. And then if you go into your Bluetooth audio, that's going to be for CarPlay or connecting an additional device. So if you wanted a different device, you could do that. If you go into settings, connections, and then if you go Apple CarPlay, you've got your Apple CarPlay device and then some advanced options where you've got some basic network ID and password info. Nothing exciting there. You can click back on the phone that way if you wanted to disconnect. So we've disconnected from CarPlay. And then if we hop back into Bluetooth now, you can see that that phone's been connected strictly for audio. So straightforward, but that's how you set up Apple devices inside of the Acura TLX. Setting up an Android device is the exact same process. So if you weren't on the screen, again, all we're going to do is click on either Bluetooth audio, phone, or settings, just going into connections, Bluetooth, and then you just want to connect a new device. From there, all you're going to do is wait for, there we go, hands-free link to show up again. And it'll take a second. There we go. PIN numbers there match up. So let's go ahead and hit OK on the phone and pair on the infotainment system. There we go. Do you want all access to messages and contacts? This is not my car again, so I'm going to say no to that one. And same thing, you can stop here. You're connected for phone calls and for streaming audio. But you can also enable wireless Android Auto. Same idea, it's backwards compatible with USB if you wanted to set it up that way. But we're going through connecting Android Auto right now, and a few seconds in. Welcome to Android Auto, so let's just go ahead and hit continue. And 3, 2, we are fully connected. So you can see here, you've got like a multi-split screen now. So you've got your maps, a little tray, which that tray is locked into place, so you can't adjust this one. And then you've got your home screen there too. And then you've got your maps along the side. If you hit the map icon, so you've got a series of icons along the bottom. So you've got your icon view. So if you want to go that way, back to this view, you've got a voice assistant. So if you wanted to bring up your assistant for your phone, you'd have the flexibility to do that. And then across the bottom here, there are a series of different apps that are available too. So you've got your Google Maps, there are other options here too. But if you hit the map icon, that's going to bring you into Google Maps instead. So full screen, you can search for addresses this way. You could look at different things. So if you wanted to look at 3D views, point of interest icons and things like that, you can adjust it out. You can hit the button along the very bottom here again. So scroll yourself down in order to get back to this little split screen as well. And if you've got Waze installed on your phone, like Waze icon is there, but if you've got it installed on your phone and it's not showing up, check down in the description of this video for some common fixes that you can try in order to get Waze working. But on the phone, you can customize the layout here too. So in order to do it, you go into your phone here and you can see I've got Android Auto. So you're searching for Android Auto. You're going to go to Android Auto settings and that gives you some options. You're looking for customized launcher. And that's going to give you the flexibility of adjusting this out. So if you wanted Waze on the top, if you want news up there as well, you can do a drag and drop in order to adjust them. Anything with a check mark next to it, you can either add or remove it from the screen. But it's not customizable dynamically the same way it was on the iPhone side. So in order for those changes to come into effect that you've made here, you've got to hit that little home icon. You're going to go into your settings, connections, then you've got Android Auto. You're going to connect, and then you're going to go here and go disconnect. So that's disconnected Android Auto. You're going to then hop back inside and reconnect to Android Auto. And when it launches in, icon view there, the changes that we made have now come into effect. So like I said, not dynamic, but you can at least easily adjust it that way if you'd like. Hopping back home into your settings, if we go back into connections again, and then into Android Auto, you've got the phone that I've been connected to for Android Auto. So I can disconnect right now. So Android Auto is disconnected again. But if I go into Bluetooth, I've got both phones that are now connected here. I can select one phone for audio and one phone for phone calls. So if I wanted to use the Android for phone calls, but I wanted to use the iPhone for audio, you'd have the flexibility to do it. So you can either be hooked up to Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, not both, but it's kind of neat that you've got that little mix and match and you can kind of figure out which one does which. So you can even see here, the icons are grayed out. So I'm going to be using the Galaxy for phone calls and then the iPhone for streaming audio that way. If you hit options here, you can toggle Bluetooth off completely. But if you select either phone, you could either say whether or not you want it hooked up for phone calls or audio, or hit options to then delete a device and just delete. And that's remove the Galaxy from the phone or from the vehicle, hitting options again, delete and delete. And all of a sudden, both phones have now been disconnected. And it's that easy setting up Android and iPhone devices inside of the Acura TLX. And moving into settings, we're going to do last because there's a lot to it. So if we swipe across, as I mentioned, USB audio's there. Alexa, you've got to be signed in. The vehicle does have a hotspot available. There's some ambient light available as well. And the ambient light, it's subtle, but it's kind of neat that that's available as an option. And you can swipe across into a series of different looks. So if there's a different color scheme that you're a big fan of, you can adjust it out. Some of them look pretty neat. You can have it set dynamically, which means that as you move into different drive modes, it's going to change up the look on the inside as well. Obviously really noticeable at night, but it does look pretty sharp at the same time. Nice. But it's cool that you've got ambient lighting available, and you can also adjust the brightness of the ambient light too. From there are some shortcuts, Acura link, nothing exciting, and then messages if they were available. So I guess the big one now, let's go through some settings. Starting off on the system side of things, you can adjust individual volumes. So if you wanted different sound settings and things like that to be at different volumes, you can do that. So if you wanted your phone call volume higher, system sounds lower, you can easily adjust or reset it to the default. There's the touchpad sensitivity as well. So do you want high or low sensitivity? You can adjust the date and time this way. So you can change it your time format. Do you want to be in the military time instead? So 12 versus 24-hour mode. You can set your date and time this way. So these things are grayed out because we're in the auto mode. So if you select through and turn auto off, you can then all of a sudden manually set the date and time. But honestly, for the most part, you just want to be auto date and time. The one thing you might want to change out is your time zone. So if you straddle a time zone and it's constantly flipping you from one time zone to the other, turn auto time zone off, and then you can manually select whatever time zone you'd like to be in instead. Straightforward. But yeah, like I said, for the most part though, you're just gonna be in the auto mode for most of these things anyways. And back from there. Next up is system units. So do you want to be in either miles or kilometers? And when you adjust it out this way, so through the infotainment system, it's also going to change up what's going on inside of the cluster screen. That's one of the nice things about it being a digital cluster, so you can adjust it out there, but it adjusts everything. So your total range, your fuel economy, as you go into, there you go, your total trip counters and things like that, that adjusts out whether you're in kilometers or miles instead. You could change the language, so do you want to be in either English, French, or Spanish? You can do a full factory reset too, so if the screen's giving you problems, you can do a full reset. There's a way to do a soft reboot as well. I'll show you towards the end of this video. There's some basic about information, so all of your basics, Wi-Fi addresses, etc. And then some advanced options too, so location and then interruption. So most people, you're not going to worry about most of this stuff. Hopping back into connections gives you the option of toggling Bluetooth off completely. You can connect to a Wi-Fi network at home if you'd like to, or you can change yourself into a mobile hotspot. You do need to have a data plan for that to work. You could adjust out some connections for Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, and that's the basics of connections. You can adjust out the display a tiny little bit, so you can adjust the brightness this way if you'd like, so going one way or the other. You can permanently lock it in to a day or a night mode. So yeah, as you can see there, super dark. But in this mode, so what's gonna happen here is essentially an auto mode. So later on at night, it's gonna flip to night mode just based off of how bright it is outside. Or you can turn the display off, button press to bring it back to life again. Hopping back into display, the other option, more settings where you can adjust the contrast or the black levels as well. Again, really refining it and making it your own. From there are a series of different driver settings. If we go into our position settings, so with the driving position, so your seat position memory. So if you've got driver seat memory inside the vehicle, what's going to happen is with this setting enabled, when you go to turn the vehicle off, it's essentially going to back the seat up in order for you to be able to get in and out of the vehicle a little bit easier. But like I mentioned, you've got driver seat memory there. So set your driver's seat up the way that you'd like to. Once that's done, you then push set in either 1 or 2 for it to remember your own personal profile. And from there, options for lighting. You've got different high beam modes. I always recommend with your high beams, keep auto high beam turned on. You can adjust some options for your ambient light. So do you want it to be max, high, etc. So just a few basic options there. Changing your ambient light theme. Again, you find a few of these things, a few different spots. Your interior lights, do you want them to automatically turn off in 15 seconds, 30 seconds, or 60? Your headlight timer. So when you go to lock the vehicle, do the lights just turn off or do they stay on for up to 60 seconds? That's when you go to lock the vehicle. Your headlights on when you're with your wipers going, etc. Nothing exciting there. Your door setup. When do you want your doors to automatically lock or unlock? As you start to drive, when you shift out of park, or do you just never want them to automatically lock? And then unlock is the same idea. So when do you want your driver's door to become unlocked? Let's see, when you go to lock the vehicle, do you want to get some sort of an audible feedback letting you know? And when you go to lock your vehicle, do you want your mirrors to automatically fold in, or do you want to have to manually adjust for them to fold in instead? With your key unlock, when you go to unlock using the fob, do all doors become unlocked or just the driver's door? You can push the unlock button twice in order to unlock all doors. Your key access light, same idea. When you go to lock the vehicle unlocked, do you want to get flashes? Do you want to get beeps? You can turn remote start on the key fob off altogether. There's a walkaway auto lock feature too. So let's hop outside and I'll show you a few of these features and how they work. In order to remote start, what you're going to do, make sure vehicle's locked, push and hold that little engine hold button along the top for a few seconds. See there, we're remote started. In order to cancel that remote start, push and hold that engine hold button again. And then that is going to turn off the remote start. But it's cool because you get some feedback as you're pushing the button there as well. If you double push the unlock button and hold on the second push, watch this. You're going to go 1, 2, and hold. You can release this to pause it part way and then double push again. So 1, 2, and hold. And not only is it rolling down all 4 windows, but it's also opening up the sunshade as well, and like the sunshade and the roof, which is fantastic. So they're all pretty cool. I wish that the window trick would be up as well, but at least you can roll the windows down. You can change up the meter setup too. So your outside temperature display, is that showing? So you can see right inside of the cluster along the bottom side, you can adjust that out. And then your A versus B counters. So you've got a few different options here. So do you want the trip counter to automatically be reset every time you refuel the vehicle when you turn the car off, or do you want to manually reset instead? So it's nice having this option. If you wanted to do it off of every ignition cycle because you're using your car for business, that's where you're going to make it happen. So you can adjust that out for both trip A and for trip B. With the turn-by-turn display, if you had an active route going, that would show up on the right side of the cluster screen. Your rear seat reminder, when you go to turn the vehicle off, you'll get a little notification inside of the cluster telling you to check the back seats. Your driver assistance setup. So these are basics for safety settings. For your collision warning, if you're going to potentially get into a collision, it can let you know. Let's see here, road departure warnings, etc. So if you start to veer over into a lane without signaling, you've got some options there. Lane keeping assist, so same idea. If you start to veer over into another lane without signaling, it can beep at you, or you can have nothing happen. Your blind spot system, do you want to get a visual alert or an audible and visual alert? And the blind spot system is right there. So as somebody enters the blind spot on either side, it's going to highlight there on the driver, opposite side on the passenger, letting you know that somebody's in your blind spot. There's the driver attention monitor too. So if you start to veer over too many times without signaling, eventually it's going to tell you that you should probably take a break. And then traffic sign recognition. Do you want your traffic signs to come up if it recognizes the speed? Yay, nay. And basic maintenance info. So if you're changing oil out yourself, you can reset that if you'd like to. So reset all that are due. And that's the basics for vehicle. Basics, there's so many things. Then you've got your camera options here with your surround camera. So the surround camera is not standard across the board, but when you've got that camera going, do you want to show your guidelines, yay or nay? So fixed versus dynamic, or both. So as we move into reverse, so you've got your fixed guidelines there that are yellow, but as you go to rotate the steering wheel, you've got them turning into a dynamic instead. So you've got that available. So you've got your surround camera, so your 360 view along the right side, backup camera there, with the option of moving in between a few different views as well if you'd like. You can dim it out, back into park. It's going to bring us that way. So those guidelines, you can adjust those out. Cross traffic monitor is a good one to keep on. And the reason why is because if you're backing up and somebody's coming perpendicular, so from the left or the right side, it's going to let you know of a potential collision this way. And then do you want to show your rear camera after you go to reverse? So if the rear view camera's on, you start driving at low speeds, it'll keep that camera going for a few seconds. So you can adjust some sound settings, so adjusting things like the treble, mid-range, and bass. Let's see, this is actually kind of low. So if we just go reset back to center again, what I'd recommend is close to what they had. So treble down a few points, but bass cranked a few points, gives pretty good audio inside of this ride. So there are different options there, but what I'd recommend here is play one of your favorite songs. And as that song is playing, adjust this out until it sounds perfect for your ears. You can adjust out the different volumes here. Let's see, do you want it focused on the entire vehicle, just the driver, front versus rear? So you've got that option, or you can kind of do like a finer tune option here, where you can do a little bit of a balance or fade this way instead, or resetter in order to bring you back to the middle. Some notifications, nothing exciting. And is that it? I think that might be it. Oh yeah, all of our notifications, etc. Perfect. And then other things to point out, the one that's visible here is going to be your four-way blinkers. You can adjust it out there, see what's going on inside of your cluster screen as well. Down low, there's dual zone climate control. So toggle it on off this way. If the passenger side is set to something different, you can hit the little sync button, and that's going to sync the driver's or the passenger side to whatever the driver's side set to. Do you want it going to windshield face feet, Frankenstein combination, turn on your AC, adjust fan speed, air circulate, and then your defog, defrost, etc. From there, you've got the option for, you're at least going to have heated first row seats, but there is the option for ventilated first row seats here as well. Dropping down, this is going to be your little selector to get into different drive modes. So there's the comfort mode, which is more of like a relaxed driving, normal mode for your day-to-day, versus your sport, which gives you a little bit of a different look as you move between. But if you twist and hold, That's going to put you into a Sport Plus mode. So if you're in Sport or Sport Plus, you can do a little bit of a launch control. So in order to do it, once you've got yourself set up in Sport or Sport Plus, you're going to hit the brake and the gas pedal simultaneously. That's going to kind of limit you, oh yeah, when you're in drive. So it's going to limit you to about 3,000 or 4,000 RPM. And then from there, you just take your foot off the brake and then you're just going to launch. It is beautiful. And then if you push and hold that dynamic button in, that's going to be your individual mode, where you'd then be able to adjust things out. So do you want to be in either normal, comfort, or sport for your engine, for your suspension, idle stops, gauges, and things like that? So you can really adjust this out and make it your own. So that's where that individual mode comes into play, but realistically, you'll probably use one of these other modes most of the time. The auto start-stop system is the one that's potentially going to kill power to the engine if you come down to a complete stop. It might happen, might not. It's up to the vehicle. You can toggle it off, and every time you start the vehicle up again, you're going to have to toggle it off again. There's the brake hold too. So with brake hold, when you come down to a complete stop, you take your foot off the brake, the car's not going to move. So that's a pretty good safety setting. You've got your park, reverse, neutral, drive, etc. And then if you've got the forward reverse park sensing systems, you can see there, I've got that forward sensing system going, so you can see all sorts of chaos in front of me. Mentioned there your trackpad, you've got your volume rocker, and then you can change between songs or stations this way. If for whatever reason the screen's giving you problems, like let's say Apple CarPlay is not working, Android Auto's not working, etc., you can do a full factory reset, which is going to wipe everything from the screen. That's the last thing that you want to try. What you actually want to do is a soft reboot. So in order to make that happen, there are 3 buttons here. You're going to push and hold all 3 of them for a few seconds. Once you do, you're going to enter the dealer diagnostic data page. So from here, you could do self-diagnostic, detail info, etc. You're just going to click on the bottom option, so detailed information, and then you're going to go into hardware auto detect. From there, don't change anything, leave it as is. You're just going to hit apply. Once you do, just hit OK. And yes, and that's essentially going to launch you into a soft reboot cycle instead. So it's going to take a few seconds in order for the change to actually happen, or the reset to happen, I should say. But what you're doing is soft rebooting the screen. So all of your settings, everything is going to be saved. So all of your addresses that you've saved, all of your stations, your phones that you've connected, etc., will still be saved by doing this. But this is what you can do with soft reboot cycle if you're running into any problems. You're going to find a wireless charge pad that you can turn off, a few cup holders, and then on the inside here, you've got some power points. So you've got a USB-C charge port, and then your USB Type A for your data connection and charging. So if you wanted to use things like a USB stick with some MP3s on there, or if you wanted to be hooked up wired for Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, you're going this way. And then there's a 12-volt power point there. On top of that, there's also a 12-volt power point oddly positioned right here. It's like the most random spot that if you never looked, you'd never see it, but a few different 12-volt power points that are available inside of this ride. The glove box here, you can see there, is fully lockable with a good amount of space in there as well. You can also toggle your trunk button on or off right there too if you want to. A few different speaker choices available too, so these are either a 13 speaker or a 17 speaker audio system. The 17 speaker system sounds so good. But the 13 speaker in the bass, realistically, it's a fairly small cabin here. So I wouldn't really be concerned about that, but good quality audio all around. Up overhead, there's an auto-dimming rear view mirror, and then you can turn that auto-dimming function off. If you've got a garage door opener at home, you can program it in this way. Up overhead, there's basic controls here for assist, SOS mode, basic controls for your cabin lights. You can turn all the lights on, have it turn on off with the door, etc. From there, there's a sunglasses holder. And then there's a little sunroof. So manual shade. If it's closed though, you can take that button and just swipe. That's just going to open things up. It's a single button press. Yeah, it opens it up all the way. But I mean, that just opens things up so nicely. Not a full panoramic, but at least having that little roof, pretty nice touch. When it's fully closed, you could tap in order to just create a little breeze instead. I like it. From here, your visor has no ticket receipt holder on the outside or on the inside there. There is a little light with your vanity mirror though. And then this also, stretches out, blocking all of the sun. It might be hitting your face. There's a little assist handle overhead here too. Visibility wise, you might run into a little bit of an issue with visibility there with how close it is to the seat, but not a big deal. All right, and second row time. All right, so a little bit tight back here. So I've got the seat set up for myself the way that I would traditionally drive. But before I get there, along the door here, you can see a speaker, that same red stitching highlight, window control with some storage along the door. On the inside here, all right. Ooh. A little tight. So I've got the driver's seat set up the way that I would traditionally drive, being 6 feet tall, and knee space is a little bit tight, but I can still fit. Foot space, same thing, a little bit tight. Headspace though, is where I would run into a problem. So I'm 6 feet tall, and with me, like I can't sit fully upright here. So sitting fully upright, I'm like turning my head forward in order for me to actually be able to sit in this car. So if you're 5'8", I would say, because really any taller, the problem with being this tall and sitting in the back of a car here, if your head's touching, if you're in a rollover accident, that's not a good sign. So not quite as spacious as I'd like to in the second row. I typically wouldn't be in the second row anyways, I'd be driving. If you had to go on a distance trip, it's okay because the seats are comfortable and you could probably lean forward a bit to make it work. But yeah, if you've got shorter family members, friends, etc., they'd be okay back here. If you've got kids, all of the anchor points are down low. Tether points are all up high. From there, you've also got some cup holders built right into the seat. So a few cup holders there. Along the side there, you've also got some mat pockets behind both the passenger and the driver's side. Down low, you've got a few vent controls and then 2 USB Type-C power points. So again, strictly for charging. Outside of that, there's a little handle and a hook along the passenger side. Same setup here, so a little handle and a hook along the driver's side too. Up overhead, you're gonna find a speaker along both sides, along with some basic cabin control lights. Nice and simple, but it is pretty simple back here. A little bit cramped. Like 3 full-size adults, my size, there's 0% chance just because of that hump in the floor. But like I said, if you've got kids, if you need anchor points, tethers, etc., they're all available there if you need it. The back end of the TLX is pretty nice. Normally, I wouldn't go for white inside of my cars, but the white with all of the black glossy highlights looks really sharp. Like the lamps, they've got a nice black bezel that traces all the way throughout. And they are going to be LED tail lamps as well. Then for basic design elements, there's a little deck lid spoiler that's glossy black, and that matches what's going on the lower part of the bumper. Same idea, nice glossy black highlight that goes throughout. Inside of the Technology trim and the a-spec, you're going to be dual tip exhaust, but the Type S has a quad tip exhaust instead, and it looks good, but it sounds really good at the same time. Nice. Then, technology-wise in the back, regardless of the trim level, you're always going to have the reverse park sensing system along with a backup camera. So that's technology you're going to find regardless. Getting inside of the trunk of the TLX can be done a few different ways. There's the option just in the front row there. You can use the key fob to do it. And then there's also the option for pushing a button on the right lamp. There's a little black indentation there. You're just going to push that in order to pop this up instead. So nice and simple process, and there's actually a surprising amount of space inside of this ride. This one has the interior protection package as well, which means that you've got a cargo cover here that's rubberized. But there's not much back here. Taking a peek underneath the tray. A little bit further. Okay, yeah, there you go. So a little bit further, you've got the white spigot along with the inflator kit. So the white spigot is if you ever need to fill up using a jerry can. And then the inflator kit in case you ever puncture a tire. So you can't change a tire because there's no spare, but you do have access to Acura roadside assistance. That's good for 4 years with varying mileage in Canada versus the States. So if you need help with tire changing, fuel delivery, lockout, winching services, things like that, that is available for you as an Acura owner. Folding down the second row seats has to be done from the trunk. So there's no way to do it from the second row. So the actual release there along the left and the right side, you just have to pull. And then if you can reach it from the back, you can push and drop down. Otherwise, you can go from the second row in order to actually lower the seat down. And then, depending on how tall you are, you might actually need to move that first row seat forward a tiny little bit more, just so that the seat actually folds down. Now, there is a good amount of space back here, but there's a little brace in the very middle, so actually getting cargo to go through to the second row, not really gonna happen. Like maybe if you've got some skis, golf clubs, things like that, it would fit, but outside of that, having that extra brace there, not really gonna be useful at all. Just going knowing the trunk area by itself, the boot has a pretty good amount of space, but outside of that, not too functional past that point. Then, filling up fuel inside of the TLX is done just along the driver's side. And one nice thing, when the car is locked, the fuel door is also locked. So you have to unlock in order to get inside. It doesn't matter if you're in the 2-liter engine or the 3-liter inside of the Type S. The minimum required fuel inside of the vehicle is an 87 octane. So you can't use an E85, 86, etc. It has to be regular 87 unleaded. Now, required and recommended are two different things. So you at least have to use an 87, but Acura Canada, US, they do recommend that you use a 91 instead, so a premium fuel. Do you need to use it? Technically, no. If you were in the 2-liter, you could probably get away with just using regular 87. But if you're in the 3-liter, do yourself a favor. This car has power. It needs that higher octane fuel. The risk of running an 87 is that you could lead to engine knocking and issues as well. Scouring through forums, some people inside of the TLX with regular fuel said they had no issues. Other people said they ran into knocking issues. So if you've got the budget for it, go for like I'd at least say an 89, but a 91 if it's in the budget. I know gas prices are crazy right now. So just go in knowing that if you're in a pinch, you can get away with 87, but run something higher. And the overall fuel economy, the 2-liter is going to get better economy than the 3. In rear-world driving so far, I've found that highway driving, as long as you're not gunning it, it's going to be better than the manufacturer's stated amount. And then highway city driving is also okay as well. You're going to be using up a little bit more, especially if you remote start and just let your car warm up for 5 to 10 minutes before you start driving. That's when your economy is going to take a hit. With the TLX being a sedan, it's lower to the ground, which means that the handling that you get inside of the ride, especially as you get into the Sport or the Sport Plus models, tight. Oh, that's nice. So this is the Sport Plus, and it is just hugging right now. I'm obviously not going to be able to push it as much as I would if I was on a track. Well, that's fun. Oh, that's good. Do some en route handling here. Wow, oh, so tight. I mean, that just sounds nice. Granted, it is the 3-liter engine, which is why it sounds like that, and it's in sport mode, but that sounds really good. The cabin noise is pretty minimal inside of this car. There is some active noise cancellation, and that definitely comes through. Like there's a little bit of ambient road noise, but it is really quiet inside of the interior here. It's an A+ there. Seat comfort wise is pretty good too. Oh, these seats are comfortable. Nice little like leather suede combination. The red is also pretty nice. Like normally I would go for a black interior, that's just my jam, or like a blue one. The Mustang has a really nice blue interior available, but this red one, I don't know, I kind of like it. It's different for sure. Like at least a lot of the elements are black as well. Like you've got the black headliner, black throughout the dash. There are small red highlights throughout that match the seats along the door and things like that. But the overall design here does look pretty nice. And then just kind of doing a little test here. Oh yeah. Nice, very nice. And back up to speed. And that was everything you needed to know about the Acura TLX. You can find all of the build details for this one down in the description, along with links off to Acura Canada and US. But if you found this video useful, give it a thumbs up, share it with someone if you think they might find it helpful. And until I see you next time, take care. So as I mentioned, from there, let's go ahead and adjust. You can adjust some languages out, so change it to English for it. Pretty small footprint, which I absolutely love. It just leads. Not the same word, fella.